He proposed while I was planning our wedding. Little did I know, he was already planning a life with someone else. My name is Clara, I'm 31 years old, and a year ago, I was on top of the world. Mark and I had been together for 6 incredible years. We lived in a charming loft downtown, shared dreams of a small family, and I thought he was the most honest, loving man I'd ever met. We'd just returned from a romantic trip to Paris where, under the twinkling lights of the Eiffel Tower, he'd dropped to one knee and asked me to be his wife. It was the most magical moment of my life. Everything was absolutely perfect. But everything changed when a wedding planning email landed in my inbox. We met at a mutual friend's party. He was an architect, all charming smiles and quick wit. I was a graphic designer, captivated by his vision and passion. Our connection was instant, undeniable. We spent our first date talking until dawn, realizing we'd found our soulmates. He remembered every detail I ever shared, from my favorite obscure band to the way I liked my tea. We moved in together after a year, blending our lives seamlessly. He was my rock, my confidant, my future. He was the one who helped me through my father's illness, holding my hand and promising me everything would be okay. When he proposed, it wasn't just a question. It was a reaffirmation of a bond I believed was unbreakable. Looking back, I should have noticed how he always kept his phone face down, or how he'd step out of the room to take certain calls. The first sign something was wrong appeared subtle, like a shadow at the edge of my vision. It was a Tuesday evening, a few weeks after the proposal. I was buzzing with wedding ideas, showing him pictures of venues. He seemed distracted, his eyes flitting to his phone, which buzzed silently on the table. "Everything okay, babe?" I asked, trying to sound casual. He cleared his throat. "Yeah, just a client. Project deadline." He'd always been so engaged, so excited about our future. His vague answers felt like a cold breeze. Later that night, he had an urgent work call and went into the bedroom, closing the door behind him, something he never did. My gut tightened, a familiar unease I tried to rationalize away. "He's just stressed," I told myself. "Weddings are a lot for guys too." But that little voice persisted, a quiet hum of doubt, and that's when things got worse. The situation intensified after that. He started working longer hours, claiming new projects. "Clara, I'm just trying to save for our future, for a bigger house, for our kids," he'd say, always appealing to our shared dreams. But his excuses felt hollow. He'd come home late, tired, sometimes smelling faintly of unfamiliar perfume, not strong enough to be obvious, but just enough to make me pause. One evening, after he'd fallen asleep, his phone vibrated with a notification. It was a message from an unfamiliar number. "Missing you already. Can't wait for our next work dinner." My heart hammered against my ribs. I wanted to confront him, to scream, to smash his phone. Instead, I stood there, frozen, a cold dread seeping into my bones. "It's probably just a colleague," I whispered, but even I didn't believe it. I started checking his pockets before laundry, looking for receipts, any clue. My mind raced with frantic scenarios, each one worse than the last. But I wasn't ready for what I discovered next. The crisis point hit me like a physical blow, leaving me gasping for air. It was a Thursday morning, 3 months after the proposal. I was sorting through emails for our wedding planner when I saw an attachment titled Mark and Sarah Bali Honeymoon Package. My blood ran cold. Sarah? I clicked on it, my fingers trembling so violently I almost dropped the mouse. It was a booking confirmation, flight details, resort reservations, all for a romantic trip to Bali, for 2, departing the week after our wedding. I scrolled further, my vision blurring, past the fancy suite and couples massages, until I saw their names, Mark and Sarah. In that moment, the world stopped spinning. A primal scream caught in my throat. I stumbled backward, hitting the wall, the laptop clattering to the floor. "No," I whispered. "This can't be real." My legs gave out and I slid to the floor, tears streaming down my face. My whole body shook uncontrollably. All the late nights, the vague excuses, the distant looks, they all coalesced into this horrifying truth. My beautiful engagement ring felt like a lead weight on my finger, mocking me. My world shattered in that moment. What happened in the next few hours is a blur of searing pain and disbelief. I called my best friend Lisa, my voice ragged, barely able to articulate the words. She rushed over, finding me curled in a ball on the floor, weeping. "Clara, honey, what is it?" she'd asked, her voice filled with concern. I just pointed at the laptop screen, unable to speak. She read it, her face morphing from confusion to shock to fierce anger. When Mark finally walked in, whistling a happy tune, I was sitting on the couch, the laptop open on the coffee table. Lisa stood beside me, her arms crossed, her eyes blazing. He stopped dead. His smile vanished. "Clara? What's going on?" he asked, his voice suddenly small. I looked at him, truly looked at the man I was supposed to marry, and felt a wave of nausea. "Bali," I choked out, pointing to the screen. "Who is Sarah, Mark?" His face went white. He opened his mouth, then closed it. No denial, no quick lie, just silence. It was in that deafening silence that I knew. My lowest point was not just the discovery, but the realization that the man I loved, the future we'd built, was nothing but a cruel, elaborate lie. I had to make the hardest decision of my life. I broke off the engagement that night. It was messy, painful, filled with his pathetic apologies and pleas for forgiveness. I packed a suitcase and left, crashing on Lisa's couch for weeks. Mark called, texted, showed up at Lisa's apartment, but I couldn't face him. My heart was broken, but my spirit was fierce. I couldn't marry a lie. Now, 6 months later, I'm in a new apartment. I've started my own graphic design business. The wedding dress sits unworn in my closet, a painful reminder, but also a symbol of what I escaped. I'm not over it entirely. The pain still comes in waves. But I'm rebuilding, brick by brick. I've learned that sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones that lead you to true freedom, even if that freedom comes with a broken heart. If there's one thing I've learned, it's to trust your gut. Those little whispers of doubt, those uneasy feelings, they're not paranoia, they're intuition. Listen to them. Don't let love blind you to red flags. It takes courage to walk away from a future you thought was perfect, but it takes even more courage to stay in a lie. Your worth isn't tied to someone else's commitment. Sometimes, the most important proposal you'll ever get is the one you make to yourself, to always choose your own truth, your own peace, and your own happiness.